Hi everyone, this is Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and in today's video I will tell you why I prefer to read ebooks or Kindle books to hard copy or physical books. So this is obviously a super personal decision, and by that I mean everyone has preferences and it really shouldn't matter to anyone else how you read your books. That said, I've gotten this question about which reading format I prefer, so I'm going to attempt to answer it. The one thing I will say is that most people have a natural resistance to change, like when, unbeknownst to you, one of your apps is automatically updated and you have to spend a bunch of time figuring out where everything is again in the new and improved version. That's annoying, right? Well, I think the same can be said for how we read. So I remember, and this is going to totally date me, in undergrad, I used to write out all of my papers and essays by hand on many, many pieces of paper with the scratch outs and the inserted lines and all of it. And then I would type them all up once I was completely finished with the writing and the editing process. I remember sitting in front of a computer screen with a blinking cursor and just thinking, there is just no way that I will ever be able to write as fluidly without doing it longhand. I really thought I would never be able to do it. Fast forward many decades later, and I now type all of my writing. It was really just a matter of getting used to the new method. I used to prefer reading hard copy books, but time has passed. I'm now used to ebooks, and this is the way that I prefer. By far, the main reason I read on my Kindle is lighting. So basically, my husband goes to bed earlier than I do, and I used to read with the light on, which was not so great for him. It is so much less intrusive to have the subtle glow of the Kindle light rather than the big side table light. And when I inevitably fall asleep while I'm reading, I just have to put my Kindle on the side table rather than feel around to turn off a side lamp. Another thing I love is the ability to export highlights. So particularly when I'm reading nonfiction, I highlight a lot of passages in the book as I read. With a physical book, this would allow me to pick up the book and then flip through my highlights. But on a Kindle, I can export those highlights into a note or a document, which then acts as a summary or a digest of what I have read. It's also great for textbooks for grad school since I can just study my highlighted notes without all of that extra text. I keep these highlights in Evernote or in a Google Doc so that I can search through them later on. Which brings me to the search function, which is fantastic. You can just keyword search within a Kindle book. So here's an example of how I might use this feature. So say I'm reading a Tolstoy book where there are approximately 150 characters. Each one has like 7 different names and nicknames, and they appear infrequently in the text. So if a character appears named Sasha, and it seems like maybe this character had already been introduced, I just have to search for Sasha and voila, now I know when he was originally mentioned in the text and every subsequent reference of his name. This is generally kind of annoying in a physical book, but really great with a Kindle. The next benefit is that the Kindle is really light. So remember that Tolstoy book that I was just talking about? Well, if I got it from the library at almost 900 pages, it would be heavy and unwieldy and awkward. And holding the pages open is a real chore, but not so with the Kindle. It is super light and you don't ever need to hold the pages open. In addition, I've placed a couple of pop sockets on the back of my Kindle to make it even easier to hold. And with the pop socket, I can just read with one hand. Try doing that with a giant Tolstoy book. But even though the Kindle is light and small, you can still have hundreds of books on it. I love this particularly for travel when I used to fill up half my suitcase with books. Now I throw in some magazines and one Kindle and I'm done. In addition, if I run out of books to read, I can always order a book and it will arrive immediately. The immediacy of digital content is fantastic for those of us who really like instant gratification. Unfortunately, digital books can be pricey. But the good news is that most libraries now carry digital books in their collections for free. I have a whole video series on the app that my library system uses if you are interested in that. So those are all the reasons that I prefer reading on the Kindle to reading a hard copy book. Are there some negatives? Of course, but there are fewer for me. First of all, navigation. The iPad Kindle version is better than the actual Kindle, but navigating back to a section that you've already read is kind of annoying. I mean, human beings tend to remember the shapes of the text on a page, so having all the pages displayed on a thumbnail, on thumbnails like they do on the iPad, is way better for me when I'm flipping back in a book trying to find something. On the regular Kindle, it's annoying to go back one page at a time, and I find the slider navigation really disorienting. Page numbers. Some books have page numbers, some just have a location number, which really just isn't very helpful. I've taken to just relying on what percentage through the book I am, but this doesn't give you a same sense of how much you've read when you're reading, say, a Tolstoy book, and 25% completed means that you've already read more than 200 pages. Also, I like to write in the margins. I know. Some people are book purists and are going to be horrified when I tell you that I write in books. And I fold down the pages for bookmarks. Sorry. I am not a book purist. In my mind, books are made to be used and abused and loved. Write all over them if that helps you remember the content. Yes, you can take notes in Kindle books, but they don't show up in the margins, and it's a much less satisfying tactile experience. And finally, I hate that you can't loan books out. Yes, I know that there's some not very good program that Amazon has that allows you to loan only certain books only a certain number of times, but it's just honestly not good enough. With hard copy books, I love being able to give that book to someone else when I'm finished reading it. Similarly, my library is now virtual, so when I leave this earth, my books will probably just poof, leave the earth right along with me, rather than being passed down to the next generation of readers. So those are some not great things, but honestly, the convenience, the immediacy, the low light level, the search function, the highlighting export, and the ease of use are definitely enough to keep me reading on my Kindle rather than hard copy. Let me know what you think. Comments are always appreciated, and thanks for watching.